What's the possibility of a depression if we're following 1930?
Very
What's the
high.
possibility?
Very high.
And we have China going down, Japan's in trouble, the BRICS are coming up, we have a war going on, unemployment's, I don't know.
Yeah. Bob, I wrote a year and a half ago, China is going to lead the world down into the abyss. That was my statement, the abyss. And China was always trumpeted as the locomotive of the global economy. The locomotive has stalled out. It's standing still. And in fact, it's probably in reverse gear.
The Great Depression was undoubtedly the worst financial and economic crisis of the 20th century. It is believed to have started in 1929 when stocks on the New York Stock Exchange lost 50% of their value in a period of 10 weeks. The situation only worsened in the early 1930s, causing the failure of tens of thousands of businesses, a rapid and significant decline in wages, and a dramatic increase in unemployment. By 1932, 1 of every 4 workers was unemployed. Thousands of banks collapsed, and millions of savings accounts were wiped out, leaving many Americans destitute. Tens of thousands lost their homes, congregating in cardboard shacks on the edges of cities across the nation, and hundreds of thousands of unemployed Americans roamed the country in futile job searches. According to Robert Kiyosaki, the author of the popular 1997 financial literacy book Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and Bert Dohmen, founder of Dohmen Capital Research and publisher of the Wellington Newsletter, the 1930s are here again, and this time might be much worse. Several financial analysts and economists have touted the theory of 100-year cycles. According to the experts, these cycles begin with massive economic downturns, followed by years of slow recovery, decades of booming economic activities, a slow then rapid decline, then another massive decline, and the cycle begins again. Many people believe we came very close to the end of this cycle in 2008, but the intervention of central banks delayed the inevitable. Now, experts are warning there will be no more kicking of cans down the road. According to Robert and Bert, the collapse has started already, and in only a matter of years, the global economy will be knee-deep in a global depression that would be much worse than the 1930s. They are predicting years of steep price declines, more bankruptcies, and a worrisome spike in the unemployment rate, not just in the United States, but in most of the world's developed economies. We will now bring you clips from an interesting conversation between Robert and Bert featured on the Rich Dad Radio Show. If you like videos like this, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notifications bell for more videos like this. Thanks, and enjoy the video.
This is about the worst, and it really looks like my forecast, which kind of was hoping would be wrong in early 2020, was a forecast for the whole decade, and I wrote at that time, if you want to know what will happen, look at the 1930s. We will have a repeat of that time, which was a terrible time, lots of unemployment, etc. And it's starting to come true. And I also wrote at the time, it will be like the 1930s, except it will probably be much worse. And so that's where we are now.
I can interrupt. The reason what Bert's saying is so important is 1933 was a very important year. People talk about 1929, the crash, and 1944, the Bretton Woods Agreement and all this. But 33 is when I study, because if you want to see the future, you study history. 1933, 2 people came to power, which is the reason we're all effed up today. So in 1933, a man named Adolf Hitler became Chancellor of Germany. Then also was Franklin Delano Roosevelt became President of the United States. America is so messed up because of those 2 characters taking control of 2 powerful economies. So in 1933, again, was FDR. We have Social Security. We have an entitlement system. We're bankrupt. As I'm talking to you today, the U.S. government is on the verge of being shut down because we can't pay Social Security, Medicare, pensions, military pension. Our whole we call entitlement society is coming apart. That was Roosevelt. And then we have Hitler, and we're on the verge of war with this guy, Putin, is kicking our butt out there. I don't know what he's doing. But Bert, it can't get much worse than this, or can it? I mean, what do you see?
Oh, we are just at the beginning, so obviously it will get much worse. you know. But in the 1930s, you're so right, and I wrote that in 2020. That was the decade of the dictators. You had Stalin, you had Hitler, you had Mussolini, you had Mao Zedong. And over 100 million people were murdered by these dictators. This is just amazing, and we're going. I mean, the policies are so similar right now. The insane policies coming out of major governments.
And I wrote this book here, Rich Dad's Prophecy, and I said why the biggest stock market crash in history is still coming.
Yeah,
And this
that
was
was
following.
that was a right on target, right on
Yeah.
target. They never
We're there
finished
right
that
now.
experiment. Yeah, yeah.
I
It
think
will
we're
be
there right
finished
now.
now, and it will be very painful. Everybody last month was saying, "Oh, this is the start of a new bull market," right? How many times did you hear that? This is a new bull market that started early this year. No, it was a fake. It was totally fake. The S&P 500 index has 500 stocks. Okay, the gains in the first 7 months of this rally we had, that everybody called such a strong rally and the start of a new bull market, 7 stocks made up all of the gains. They were up almost 50%. These 7 stocks, 7 out of 500 stocks, 493 stocks had almost zero gains. So it was totally fake. And the guys in the media tell you, oh, look at this bull market, look at this. The S&P 500 is up so and so much. Well, we showed an index, which is the S&P equal weight, SPEW is the symbol. And that is just flat for the whole time. And then we show the S&P 500 chart, and it's just soaring upward because it's basically only 7 stocks, you know. So it's everything is phony now. Everything is false and a lie. So you have to be so careful about what and who you believe, you know.
Yeah.
And
Please.
I've never seen time like this.
During the course of the conversation, Bert discusses the increasing socioeconomic decline in the United States and China and its role in the coming depression. Whereas the U.S. is currently grappling with elevated prices, China is dealing with the opposite, deflation. China is also battling a high unemployment rate, especially for its younger workers. More than 1 in 5 people between 16 to 24 are unable to find a job. This is in addition to its growing property woes, piling local government debt, demographic decline, and many other economic and political challenges. Regardless, the Chinese government cannot make any major moves like printing money to bail out its economy like it did during the global financial crisis. Economists and analysts have explained that China has become too indebted to pump up the economy like it did 15 years ago when it rolled out $586 billion to minimize the impact of the crisis. Bert explains that China, once touted as the locomotive of the global economy, will be the engine that propels us into another Great Depression. Let's get back to the interview.
How can we now let 30 or probably 40 million unvetted people into the country, no identification, nothing? We not only let them into the country, we give them a hotel room that goes for $500 a night, but the taxpayer pays for it, food, cell phones, etc., clothing, education. How could that be? This is so much like the book by Cloward and Piven, 2 professors written in the 1960s, and they wrote a book on how to destroy capitalism and freedom. And they said, we have to overload the welfare system. That will destroy capitalism once and for all. And this is happening because all these people will go on the welfare rolls, and we will be paying. Can you imagine 30 or 40 million people are going to be getting a welfare? We don't have that much money. So that means that the Federal Reserve is going to have to print it. What people don't recognize is that the Treasury bonds in the last 2 years have gone down 50%. This is supposed to be a safe investment. They're down 50%. Can you believe this? And nobody mentions that on TV. Nobody mentions that. And here's actually some of the bond kings, bond gurus that they have on TV. They say, oh, yeah, gotta buy bonds, gotta buy bonds. No, and we said, no, we do the opposite. And the opposite has made a lot of money. So this is the thing. People have to recognize what is going on. And the Federal Reserve has not tightened money. we know what to watch on the Federal Reserve to signal that they're tightening money. They are not tightening money. And in every issue of the Wellington Letter, we showed the charts. That you see this chart, it shows that the Federal Reserve is all talk and no action. And that's so important. That this means that we're going to have high inflation next year. Inflation is going to be galloping upward next year. So now you have to find out how to protect yourself against that. Look at what's going to happen with all the buildings now. I wrote about that, I think the last time we talked, which was about a year ago. And I couldn't believe it. You had over 700,000 views on that interview. And we talked about this, but oh yeah, that's right. You had your real estate advisor or partner on that program as well. He was very good, and we were talking about the problems of commercial real estate. Commercial real estate is going to just implode. These loans. They're already giving the keys back. The owners of the buildings are giving the keys to the lenders. They say, here you have it. We don't even want $1 for the building. You're going to have it free.
What's the possibility of a depression if we're following 1930?
Very
the
high.
possibility?
Very high.
And we have China going down. Japan's in trouble. The BRICS are coming up. We have a war going on. Unemployment's, I don't know.
Yeah. Bob, I wrote a year and a half ago, China is going to lead the world down into the abyss. That was my statement, the abyss. And China was always trumpeted as the locomotive of the global economy, okay? Now that China is already in a depression, and nobody really wants to talk about it, except the top level of government in China has prohibited the media from talking about the economy because it's so bad. That means that they are already in the depression. Now, nobody talks about the locomotive has stalled out. It's standing still. And in fact, it's probably in reverse gear. Nobody talks about it. Okay, as if China is unimportant. No, China is very important. This is a locomotive of the world, and it's standing still.
The U.S. and other major economies import a lot of goods from China. So as its exports become cheaper due to deflation, other economies will be forced to lower their own prices or risk losing market share. There would also be reduced demand for raw materials and commodities due to the slowdown of economic activities in China. According to Bert, the coming collapse will be so great and immense that millions will take to the streets in protest, and that's when governments will reveal their endgame, the introduction and enforcement of central bank digital currencies. Everyone who wants a way out of the crisis will be mandated to accept and use their digital currencies and surrender all of their freedoms and liberties. This is why gold lovers like Robert have been advocating for increased stacking for years. Even if there is only a 5% chance that this is the horrible future the global economy faces and there's something to be done to protect yourself and your loved one, then you should take this final opportunity to do just that. The chances are definitely above 5%, and only those who protect themselves now can stand up to the global elites in their planned reset. Please share your thoughts on Bert's predictions in the comments section below. Also, ensure you smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notifications bell for more videos. Thanks for watching.